بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Many times in the Haram, Makkah, Medina, sometimes here as well, we come across beggars. So people asking for money, people asking for help, assistance. So how should we deal with them? I'm not talking about people who you definitely know that they're genuine and in need. I'm talking about people who meet on the street, people asking, they come out different stories. How should we deal with them? So the first thing is, you should do two things mentally. The first thing is, we should thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put us in a position where we don't need to beg. We should do thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, first in our minds. Because begging can be, number one, out of genuine necessity. That's why they're begging. So Allah has not put us in that position. And number two, if they're even begging out of, that's their profession, that's their job, deception, that Allah has not even made us like that we're not like that we have that much understanding, that much, our circumstances are such that either way, either because of poverty or because of just trickery and deception, we're not like that. So do thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, number two, we should think to ourselves that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made us look in such a way that a person, whether he's genuine or whether they're fake, they thought of us worthy of asking from. That they thought this person looks noble, he looks kind, he's somebody that would give money. Should we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah, and make that like a thing to Allah, that Allah, this person has thought of me of worthy, Allah, he's come to me to ask, Allah, you also fulfill my needs, my necessities. That's mental, we should think of these things. Even here, anywhere. After that, you should remember that in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَمَّا السَّائِلَ فَلَا تَنْهَرْ. When somebody is asking, you should not look down upon them, scold them, say harsh words. So even though the rule would normally apply to somebody who's genuine, but even though we don't know if they're genuine or not. So we should never say anything harsh, say anything stupid, belittle them, mock them, tell them off, scold them, because the Quran says, وَأَمَّا السَّائِلَ فَلَا تَنْهَرْ. Understand? And then you shouldn't even pass comments like, oh, these are beggars and they're just wasting their time, because you shouldn't think like what Qarun thought, إِنَّمَا أُوتِيتُ عَلَىٰ عِلْمٍ. I work hard for my knowledge, I work hard, I sweat, I have a job, I put a business, that's why I got money. Shouldn't like, sometimes people pass these comments that like, again, I said many of these maybe not be correct and fraudulent. We'll do that later on. But even then, we shouldn't pass comments like this. Remember that whatever we have, ذَلِكَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ يُؤْتِيهِ مَن يَشَاءُ. And very easily circumstances can change. Even if that person is not genuine, you're saying harsh words and you're belittling somebody or scolding somebody, it could change. I mentioned this story before as well. There's this book, again, the chain of this story is not mentioned, etc. It's a story. It's mentioned in this book called Al-Mustatraf fi kulli fannin mustatraf, or one of those books. Like that. So in there he mentions that there was once a person, he was having dinner with his wife, and a beggar came at the door. And the beggar came and the person got really annoyed, and he shouted at him and he scolded him and he chucked him, pushed him away from the door. And then a few days went by, something happened, his business started to have problems, fell into debt, problems with the husband and wife, and he divorced. And things went on. So that lady, she got married again, she got divorced after he died, she found another husband, she got married. And one day this husband, the second husband, and the wife, they were having dinner, or they were eating at home. And a person came to beg. And when the person came to beg, the husband, the second husband, he came back crying in tears. His face was all quiet in tears and he was like kind of shivery. So the wife said, what happened? So the wife said that person at the door who's begging, that's your first husband. So the person who was first at one position, in one state, he was wealthy, he was rich, and when the beggar came to beg from him, he pushed him away, he was very harsh with him. He's now in a state where he's begging. And then the husband said, "Shall I tell you something even more amazing than this? The person who your husband pushed away was me. After a while, I was genuinely in need to fulfill my debt. I was a businessman, I was a decent person, but I was in need. And I thought he would have helped me to get me started. I made my business up, I got back together. And that little dip I had in my business, I sorted it out, I got back. And Allah put me in a position I was able to marry you, pay the mahar, etc. And this is how Allah has تِلْكَ الْأَيَّامُ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. Whether the story is true or not, it is not from it happens. We see in different places, today somebody's a king, he has a palace. They are on the streets begging. They have to flee, become a refugee. You have money, you have pounds, or you got lots of pounds. They get demonetized. It no longer have any value. It happened before in the Soviet Union. You have like this much, like bucketfuls of money, but this is no longer, it's null and void. What are you going to do? You have £1 million in your bank account, they lock your bank account, and you become just like pauper again. So never be deluded by your current circumstances. So if somebody begs from you, you should think no. However, what we do recommend is that there are so many cases. There are so many cases when we investigate, when you ask people who are local, people who know these circumstances. There are so many cases, and even ourselves we are witness when we test them, when we see them. We see somebody begging one day, next day they're again begging the same story again. There's so many cases. What we could say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that in our heart, there's so many cases of fraud. There's so many cases of fraud. There's so many cases of people tricking and having all these same stories. So they're expert at this. That because of this so many cases, it is best for us to not give too much, or if you want to give, just give little. Don't be naive and give so much, because there's so many cases, like we can even say more than 50% of the cases, that our ghalabatul dhann is that these are normally professional beggars, a lot of them. And because we have enough evidence to say that it's very high, it's a possibility, a low possibility, a high possibility, probability, that these are normally professional beggars who are out and about doing these things. That's why we don't give them. If they were genuine, we would give them more. If we were able to establish that they were genuine, we would give them more. But because we can't establish that, and in many, many cases, and people who are expert in this, who have looked into this, have thought that it's normally it's like a profession. That's why, Allah, I am not going to give. Had I known this person was genuine, I would have given them. And it doesn't matter what they are. It's very, very common. You get like different types of beggars. You get the I want to say lower class, but like they look more poor. Like they be on the streets looking for a real, a pound, something here. You can tell genuinely that this person is like this. And I have another case where they look a bit more decent, and they come say, I lost my passport, lost my ticket, somebody's passed away, I need to change my ticket, I need they have all these a long story. Sometimes they have a letter from somebody, and they have letters in different languages. They have in English, Urdu, Arabic, Turkish. So because there's so many different cases like this, don't be deceived and give a lot of your money. If you feel guilty, that I don't feel like turning somebody back, give them 1 riyal, 2 riyals. And he said, even the children sometimes, the smaller children, we should do shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us a good childhood. Allah given our children good childhood. They don't have to worry, they don't have to beg, they can go to school, they can eat, they can play. Some of these children, it's not on their own accord. If you look around, they control other people. And even those without hands, one person told me, we can't say all of them. I don't have the evidence to say that it's all of them. But some have told me that sometimes these young children without hands, this is the zulm in the world that happens, Allah have mercy upon us, that at birth they cut their hands off so that they can grow up and become beggars. That's actually happens, because I know of one case like this, and I can't say every child is like this, but these children without hands, some person has cut their hands off when they were young so that then they can go out to be beggars. Allah, this is how we should do shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We live in such luxuries that, I don't like this food, Mom. We have 3-4 choices of food, and we say, I don't like this food, or I don't like this trousers, I don't like these shoes are old now, not in style. And we really feel, if you go down to travel, when you travel and you see the situation, you realize, wow, the world is very, very, we should become thankful, become open-minded, you see different things. Do you understand? And if you really want to give, then if you think, okay, I'm going Medina Munawwara, I'm going Makkah Mukarramah, there are lots of people who are very poor and needy there. You can find sources and try to give it there. So this is a few advices how we deal with, how we can deal with, how I deal with the situation. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to act upon this. May Allah make us grateful for the ni'mah He's bestowed upon us. May Allah ta'ala save us from poverty, which makes us min faqrin munsin, of poverty which makes us forget everything. And poverty sometimes become close to kufr. You can sell anything. There's it's not only even there's a picture I saw, America, I think 1960s, 1950s. There's a woman. She had a sign on the front of a house, 4 kids for sale. Yes, a white woman. You think, oh, this one probably only in black Asians. That's how inbuilt racism. But there's also a picture I saw that in 19-something, a picture they had, because she couldn't afford to feed them. So when poverty comes, people do this. I can't feed the children, I do. So anything can happen. So it can happen anywhere. Don't think, in England, you call a pound, it's stronger than, it can happen anywhere. So always make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, save us from poverty, save us from bala, in this dunya. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu.